Welcome along. Today, we're doing a deep dive into academic writing, specifically how to push your skills up to that C1 level.
That's right. We're talking university essays, maybe IELTS or TOEFL prep, research papers,
Mm.
anywhere you need really strong scholarly writing.
We look at some guides that break down, the key features and strategies. Our mission today is really to pull out those core elements for you.
Yeah, we'll be looking at things like what C1 writing sounds like, essay structure, using nuanced language, citing sources properly, which is crucial, and also some common mistakes to steer clear of.
Exactly. So, if you're looking to really understand how to build strong arguments, use precise language, and importantly, give credit where it's due, this should give you some hopefully actionable insights without being overwhelming.
Let's get started then.
Okay, so first off, what actually defines C1 academic writing? What makes it stand out?
Well, at its core, it's about showing a sophisticated grasp of English, but specifically for academic purposes. There are a few key things. First, the tone is consistently formal.
Formal tone. What does that mean in practice?
It means avoiding casual language,
Hmm.
obviously, but also things like contractions. So you'd write do not instead of don't, it is instead of
Right,
is.
it signals a kind of seriousness, a considered approach.
Exactly. It reflects the objective nature we aim for in academic work. Then second, there's the vocabulary. It needs to be precise.
So moving away from everyday words.
Yeah, kind of. Instead of saying something vague like lots of people think, you might write, a significant proportion of scholars argue that. It's
Well,
not just about using big words, though.
it's about accuracy.
Accuracy, yes, and showing you're engaging with the specific language of that academic field, that
Mhm.
you're aware of the existing conversation.
Okay, makes sense. Formal tone, precise vocabulary. What else?
Complex sentences.
Mm.
C1 writing often uses more complex sentence structures effectively. Well, using things like subordinate clauses allows you to show more intricate relationships between ideas in one go.
Hmm.
For instance, although research by X suggests one outcome, empirical evidence points towards. That kind of structure packs in more nuance.
Right, it shows a higher level of thinking, connecting ideas within the sentence itself.
Precisely. It demonstrates a more sophisticated way of processing and presenting information.
Okay, so formal tone, precise language, complex sentences. Maybe take a moment if you're listening to think. Does my writing consistently show these things? If not, well, that's what we're digging into.
Yeah.
So let's talk structure. How vital is a good essay structure at this
Oh,
level?
it's fundamental.
Yeah.
Especially for argumentative essays. You can have brilliant ideas and language, but if the structure is weak, the whole thing falls apart. It's the skeleton holding it all together.
So let's start at the beginning, in the
Mm,
introduction. It's more than just saying what the topic is, right?
absolutely. It needs a hook something to grab the reader right away. Well, could be a striking statistic, a provocative question, maybe a statement highlighting why the topic matters.
Like the debate around AI ethics has intensified,
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Something relevant and engaging. And then, crucially, comes the thesis statement.
Ah, the core argument, the roadmap for the essay.
Yes, and
Yeah.
at C1 level, a really strong thesis often acknowledges complexity. It might even include a concession.
A concession. You mean like acknowledging the other side briefly?
Yeah. For example, while acknowledging the potential benefits of X, this essay will argue that the risks associated with Y are more significant because it shows you've considered multiple angles right from the start.
Okay, demonstrates balance. So, after the intro, we get into the body paragraphs. I hear the Peel method mentioned a lot.
Yes, Peel is a fantastic framework. It stands for point, evidence, explanation, and link. Really helps keep each paragraph focused and effective.
Right. Let's unpack Peel. Point first.
Point is your topic sentence. Each paragraph needs one clear point, stated up front, that directly supports your main thesis. Like, one major challenge is the lack of regulatory oversight.
Okay, clear signposting. Then evidence.
This is where you bring in your support. Credible sources, data, examples. According to a 2023 study by Smith, you need solid backing for your point.
And the evidence has to be relevant, obviously.
Highly relevant and from authoritative sources, especially at C1. Then comes the E for explanation.
This isn't just dropping a quote and moving on then.
Definitely not. Explanation is where you analyze the evidence. You say how it supports your point, why it's significant. This data implies that. This is your critical thinking on display.
Connecting the dots for the reader.
Exactly. And finally, the L link.
Linking back.
Yeah. You connect the paragraph's point back to your main thesis, showing how it fits into the bigger picture. Or you can use it to transition smoothly to the next paragraph's point. Therefore, this aspect reinforces the need for
So each Peel paragraph is like a mini argument building the overall case.
Perfectly put.
And then the conclusion. How do we wrap up a C1 essay strongly?
The conclusion needs to provide closure. You should restate your thesis, but not word for word. Synthesize the main points you've made.
Summarize, but with insight.
Exactly. Show the implications. And you want to end with impact. Leave the reader thinking.
How? A final thought?
Could be. Maybe a final thought, a call to action if it fits, or perhaps highlighting broader implications. Something like, ultimately, failing to address this could have far-reaching consequences. Make it memorable.
Okay, that's a solid framework. Now let's pause for a second and put you, listening, on the spot. Think about this prompt. Should governments regulate artificial intelligence? Just mentally try drafting a thesis statement. Remember, clear stance, maybe acknowledge a counterpoint.
Good exercise.
Yeah. Now moving on. Another key C1 skill is using language carefully. Specifically, hedging and boosting. What are those about?
Right, this is really important for academic nuance. You'll rarely see scholars state opinions or findings as absolute facts. That's where hedging comes in.
Hedging. Like being cautious.
Exactly, using cautious language. Phrases like, it could be argued that, or this might suggest, or it seems likely that.
Why do that? Why not just state it?
Well, it shows intellectual honesty. Often evidence isn't 100% conclusive, or there are other interpretations. Hedging acknowledges that uncertainty or complexity. It avoids overstating your case.
So it's about precision, really, matching your language to the strength of the evidence.
Precisely. Which brings us to boosting.
The opposite.
Kind of, yeah. Boosting is when you do have strong evidence or there's a wide consensus. Then you can use stronger, more assertive language.
Like what?
Phrases like, there's compelling evidence that, or research conclusively shows, or it is undeniable that.
So you use boosting when the support is really solid.
Exactly. It's all about calibration. Let's take an example. A simple, maybe too simple statement. Social media causes depression.
Okay, very blunt. And probably not entirely accurate scientifically.
Yeah, it's too direct, too causal. How could we make that more academic using hedging?
Maybe something like, some studies suggest a link between heavy social media use and increased symptoms of depression.
Perfect. You've used some studies suggest and link. It acknowledges a connection based on evidence, but avoids that absolute cause and effect claim. Much more nuanced and academically appropriate.
Got it. So hedging for caution, boosting for confidence when justified.
Spot on. Now, related to handling evidence is how you actually integrate and cite your sources. Another huge C1 differentiator.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Can't just use others' work without credit.
Never. And how you do it matters. Our sources talk about using specific citation verbs. Don't just always say Smith says.
Use stronger verbs.
Strong or just more precise verbs, like Smith asserts if it's strong claim, or Smith contends if it's an argument, or Smith highlights if they're emphasizing something. It adds sophistication.
Shows you've understood the author's intent.
Exactly. And then there's paraphrasing. You absolutely must paraphrase correctly.
Meaning putting it entirely in your own words.
Entirely in your own words, in your own sentence structure, while keeping the original meaning. Let's say the original is, global warming is the greatest threat to humanity. UN 2022.
Okay. How would you paraphrase that properly?
You might say, the United Nations identified climate change in 2022 as posing the most significant danger to people worldwide.
Yeah.
Different words, different structure, same core idea, and you'd still add the citation, UN 2022.
And just changing a few words isn't enough, is it?
Absolutely not. That's still plagiarism. You have to genuinely rephrase it to show you understand it, and always cite the source. It's non-negotiable.
Okay, crucial point. Paraphrase thoroughly, cite meticulously.
Always. So
Yeah.
finally, even when you've done all this, there's polishing, editing. What common slip-ups should people watch out for?
Yeah, even good writers can miss things. One common one is wordiness, using more words than needed.
Like due to the fact that.
Exactly. Just say because. Much cleaner, more direct.
Makes sense. What else?
Informal language creeping in. Using kids instead of children, for example, you need to maintain that formal academic register throughout.
Consistency is key.
And weak connectors. Just using and, but so all the time.
Right. Vary it up. Use stronger, more specific transitions like furthermore, moreover, nevertheless, consequently. They guide the reader much better.
Shows a better command of logical flow.
Definitely.
Mm.
And a practical tip here. Don't be afraid to use tools. Things like Grammarly or the Hemingway editor can actually be really helpful for catching wordiness, passive voice, maybe overly complex sentences.
Good shout. They're aids, not replacements for careful proofreading, but useful.
For sure.
Okay, so that brings us towards the end. For your academic challenge this week, why not try applying this? Pick a current topic, maybe something about renewable energy adoption, and write just one Peel paragraph.
Yeah, focus on getting that point, evidence, explanation, link structure right.
And if you have a study group or somewhere you can get feedback, maybe share it. It's always helpful.
Definitely.
Looking ahead, our next deep dive will be into C1 listening. We'll tackle things like understanding complex lectures, dealing with different accents, and picking up on implied meaning.
Ooh, that's a tricky skill. Very important, though.
It is. So keep practicing that writing. Remember, clear, effective academic communication is so valuable. Honestly, the world needs your well thought out ideas.
Absolutely. Keep writing.
And we might have some other things coming up too. Maybe a template for research papers, possibly even a debate-style discussion on an academic topic.
Sounds interesting.
And as always, if you hit a specific writing snag or have a question based on today, do reach out. We'd love to hear from you.